So how are you, Avi?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. So today we're discussing a bit about AI. We're going to try to introduce the general concepts. Um, so what is AI? Um, in your words, in few words.
In my words, I think that everybody has its own definition, but I think that AI is basically everything that any algorithm that use data as an input and outputs a decision. So the very basic algorithm, like for example, automated chess player, or for example, autopilot on a plane, takes the incoming data and make decision on the fly. So this is basically the general definition of AI. Among this definition, we have different subdomains.
Okay.
One is machine learning. You probably heard about these words. Machine learning is basically more sophisticated algorithms that use data, but learn from the data using generally statistical methods, output decisions, predictions, etc. Then you have refinement in the field, which is called deep learning. This is mostly what is using neural networks. So it's mimicking how the brain works.
Okay.
So it's still taking data as an input. It learns from the data, so there is a process of training, and then it outputs predictions, recommendations, decisions, etc.
So to go back a little bit, this process of deciding, we could say it's different from an equation in which you have a set number of outcomes. What you're telling me is that there is a process that constructs an output from the data.
Exactly. So it's not only an output, because it could be an output that is not a decision, and therefore it wouldn't be called AI, because AI generally is considered as using data to take human-like decision making.
Okay.
So a prediction is a decision, and a recommendation is a decision, etc.
So you introduced a few concepts that are machine learning, deep learning, neural networks. Can you say a few words about each of these ones?
Yeah. So as I say, in the last 50, 60 years, AI was mostly algorithms. And then about 20, 30 years ago, we started to use machine learning algorithms because of computing power increase. These are, again, like you take the data, you learn from it, and you output a solution. And much more recently, like starting in the year 2015, 2016, this huge revolution of deep learning, which is neural networks.
Okay.
And more recently, like about 2 years ago, 2022, generative AI started to explode it with the emergence of language models, OpenAI and ChatGPT. And these are another kind of algorithms, another kind of methods that are within deep learning, that they are neural networks, but they generate images, music, videos, and other kind of data. It could be 3D renderings, but basically it's called generative AI because it generates from data, out of the fly, on the fly.
Yeah, that's very interesting. What could you say about the difference between narrow AI and general AI? Because these are words that are thrown around in these conversations, but not everyone knows what they mean.
So generally, narrow AI is what we've been doing until about 2 years ago. using deep learning, machine learning, solving a specific problem. So it could be a classification, for example, is it a cat or is it a dog on images? This is called supervised learning. It could be a regression algorithm predicting stock price of a you know, and this is basically
routing in a GPS. Let's say when you
for example,
and you say I want to go have dinner. That's a form of AI, right?
Totally. And it is called basically narrow AI because it's basically solving one specific problem.
Doing one thing very good.
Exactly. Usually using brute force algorithm, like brute force learning, and we use tons of GPU power, and we train with a lot of data. Boom, we get narrow AI. And it was very helpful until recently, where we started to have a glimpse of general AI, which is more what we call a solution, a general solutions. Yeah. So, for example, narrow AI could be compared to a Swiss knife.
Okay.
And general AI could be compared to a human hand. A human hand is able to build Swiss knives, is able to build all kinds of tools that can serve to much more general purpose.
Okay, and a hand can use a Swiss knife.
Totally.
So we can get those kind of situations in which as AI improves, we have a general AI taking advantage of a narrow form of AI.
Totally.
We could say that that's kind of what we are seeing with ChatGPT and this kind of language models.
Yes.
That give us sort of magical answers.
So this is a new trend, which is called agentic AI, the use of agents that are basically using heuristic algorithms to use general AI, like language models, to solve more complex tasks.
Could you explain in a few words what's an heuristic algorithm?
So heuristic algorithm, it's simply an algorithm that is based on rules, and that if then else, and that is using basic rules, but within those basic rules there is some generative AI, and this is basically generating solutions on the fly. And right now we are at a stage in history where it's still not working very well, but we are making progress. And in my opinion, the solutions will actually be coming from neural networks. So instead of having heuristic solutions, we will have neural networks of using neural networks.
Okay. I have one question, because just now you talked about a point in history. You said in this moment in history, this is what's happening. What could you tell us about the past, present, and future of AI? I mean, we're coming from somewhere that we already kind of touched, which is we're coming from a reality where narrow AI is very present, and we've become so accustomed to it that we don't call it AI anymore. I mean, it's just good,
totally,
right? And now we're kind of dipping our toes into a more general form of AI.
Well,
coming.
Well, I think that AI is just it's gonna end up like everywhere, and it's gonna end up like water is part of every organic thing. I don't think we should make such a big deal about it. And it's just the human species trying to mimic its own intelligence, but then we solving problem that we as human would like to solve, and we have made a lot of progress, basically due because of the rise in computing power and the amount of data out there. but I don't think we should make it something special, and it's going to be permeating every aspect of business and technology.
You just said that it's just humans replicating themselves. Sort of. These were not your exact words, but if you think about the development of tools throughout history, it was always the same. Every time we built something new, we built something that replicated what we were doing. Robots that work in industries, they do what humans did, but better, faster, cheaper.
Yeah.
So AI is doing the thinking part.
Yeah. Right now, it's starting to have reasoning capabilities. I believe that we've been doing what is enhancing, making things more efficient, from the technology of fire to the technology of computers, till today technology of intelligence. But that's been a reflection of who we are.
What provides the most to development of AI? Is it like Moore's law, in which the computing power improves very rapidly, or is it our new knowledge on how AI works? Which one weighs the most?
It's a very interesting question. Basically, in 2017, there was a big revolution in...
Like 7 years ago.
About 7 years ago.
Ancient history.
In AI, it's like ages ago. There was a big revolution with this new paper release called Attention is All You Need, where the architecture of the transformer, T for transformer, the T of GPT is for transformer.
Okay.
So this transformer architecture is it has been revolutionizing the field. And since then, and I remember because at that time when I saw this new architecture, this was too big of an architecture for the computing capabilities of the time.
Okay.
Therefore, I didn't even use it at the time.
It was a thought process more than an...
It was used at the time, but it was very highly consuming in terms of computing power and memory. So it was very hard.
Could not be used by everyone.
Exactly.
You needed a very specific...
Only big companies were using it. And so I didn't pay attention too much for about 2 years. And back in 2019, actually I had a small break between 2017 and 2019. When I came back in 2019 in the field, I realized this has developed tremendously. And what I had dismissed at the time basically became the mainstream. And every AI now that we notice in the market is basically using the transformer technology. And this technology is based on a single architecture from 2017, but I won't get into the detail of the architecture, but the specificity is that it can scale with the amount of data.
Okay.
So the secret, and that's the secret of ChatGPT, and that's also why ChatGPT 4 and 5 are going to be better, because they are scaling on the amount of data and the compute power.
So they have more data, they become more capable.
Yes, exactly.
Is there a tipping point or a point that optimizes between the relationship between data and... Because I'm guessing that at some point there is such a thing as too much data, right? Or isn't it?
So at that stage right now, what are all those foundation frameworks, as we call them, which are like the big large language models? Companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, and Mistral, and some others that are coming in the market. Basically, the key is onto the quality of the data, because a model like a GPT-4, for example, has pretty much used almost all the text data that exists on the web, accessible, on the open web.
Yeah.
And so
That's a lot.
That's a lot of data, and there is an accent on the quality of the data right now, because that's what makes the quality of the model. And we can see it right now in the market with this huge competition at the top right now between OpenAI and Anthropic, for example, where recently Claude 3.5 has been released, and you can see that it's been trained on better data, because generally the quality of the answers are better.
How do you filter data based on quality? Because that's, I mean, when I think about what to pay attention when you use Google, forget AI. I mean, humans using search engines, the big challenge is to filter data to find the quality information. I mean, you have everything available. You have to choose which one is useful for you. How is this done on scale?
That's a very good question, and I'm not going to get into the intricacies of the industry here. But if you want to do this on scale and in high quality, there are companies that are specialized to doing that. You, of course, can do it yourself. There are many tools out there to scrape data in a massive way. But there are companies out there that are specialized into providing high quality data to companies like OpenAI, for example, or Anthropics. I use an example like Scale AI is a company that's been growing recently tremendously, because they have been providing all the data for all the major foundation frameworks, OpenAI, Anthropic, etc., and more.
That's very interesting. I mean, if you want to have a good AI model, you need to have good data in order to...
That's primordial.
If we're speaking about applications of AI, mostly in the present, to enterprise use, what are you seeing happening? What do you see that's going to happen in the near future? What are the trends that you're foreseeing?
What we've been seeing recently in the last 2 years is basically a massive use of large language models applied to a different use case in the enterprise. To give a few examples, we've all seen the customer support use case where many new companies are answering customer questions with large language models. There are other use cases where for internal use, where employees can prompt an AI, a Gen AI, in order to get more information about the data. More recently, in active area of research, agent AIs called, RAG, basically means that, as I described, it's agents that use AI agents. So you can think of it like different AIs that interact with each other, gather information, do research, analyze the information, and come up with a solution or decision.
Okay, so it's kind of different specialists working together in order to achieve one common goal.
Totally.
Different narrowish AIs.
We could see it that way, yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned different areas in which AI is being used. You mentioned customer service. You mentioned the use of different agents. When I'm thinking about it, I reason that there are different ways in which to use AI, right? Because you can use it as a helper to help you think. Like, have you heard of the rubber duck debugging, in which when you're alone and you need to debug a certain line of code, you talk to your rubber duck until you find the answer. Now you can have a sort of rubber duck that answers back.
Right? Oh yeah, totally.
So you have this tool that helps you think.
Yeah.
You also have tools that help you do a part of the work. In customer service, for example, you leave that part to the customer service, and you can put some processes on an AI. Like if you're a lawyer and you need to write some sort of document, and it's always pretty much the same, you go, okay, write this document.
Yeah.
Do these different kinds of purposing work differently from each other? How different are they?
So
beneath the hood.
What you've been talking about, if I understand you well, it's are systems that are using large language models. So text data, you put a prompt, you get an answer. They're all based on the same kind of architecture that predicting the next word, the next token. They all work basically the same way.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned large language models, because I think that in the general public's mind, this is when AI become a thing, right? When large language models entered the scene, everyone started talking about AI.
Yeah, I think that you're right, and I think it comes back to the fact that we've entered the era of general AI, so versus narrow AI, and that suddenly everybody feels more familiar, feels more close, give some aspects of consciousness to those AIs, and that's why everybody's starting to take the ride, basically.
Can we touch the topic of consciousness since you mentioned it? I mean, we could go into what is consciousness, but do you think there is such a thing as artificial consciousness? Could it be, or is it just a simulation?
If you ask me, I think we've overrated consciousness. I think that there are different way of thought among different people, but if you ask me, I think that consciousness, yes, I think that AI, in a way, is conscious. Why? Because as I've heard recently, AI could be seen also as alien intelligence. It's also a way to take data in and output decisions, predictions, exactly like what we do. By the way, we don't know how our brain exactly works.
Okay.
So
it's sort of a black box.
It's a black box, and not only that, we have senses, but even if you look at the realm of animals, some animals have different senses. Dogs catch infrared. They have a sense of smell that is as developed as our sense of sight, and so they picture the world in a very different way from us. Their consciousness is very different from us. So why would we say that any other intelligent system, whether we understand it or not, must have the same kind of consciousness as we do? So for me, consciousness, yes, it pertains to also to AI systems.
I think that when people ask about consciousness regarding AI, it stems a bit out of fear, because if something becomes conscious, what is it going to do?
Yeah,
with us?
Yeah, I mean, or what are we gonna become? Like, we're not anymore the dominant species on Earth. And
for what I gather, there are two voices on this, two bells that ring on the same topic. One says that we're going to become extinct, and the other one is we're going to become almighty, super powerful. Being one, if the AI takes the wheel and turns us into all of the post-apocalyptic science fiction films, like say The Matrix or whatever. And the other one, we're going to be a multi-planetary species.
yeah.
Do you think that the future is this kind of polarized reality, or it's going to be something in the middle, or is there a reason to be afraid? Are we just being? I'm sorry.
No, you totally have the point. I don't know what the future is going to be made of. However, I think, based on what I've seen in the past, in the more recent technologies, you can see that practically every scenario that we can think of will possibly happen in different pockets of the world.
Yeah.
There might be places in the world where we will have utopic AI. And there also might be other places in the world where we might have dystopian AI. A bit the same as we have today. There are thousands of ways that technology is applied in different places in the world. Some technologies are applied for war in some places, and they are applied for health in other. In some places, it gives a realm of wealth, and in others, it brings destruction. So, in my opinion, the world is much more, like a spectrum, more rather than polarized black and white answers.
Reality is a scale of gray.
Yeah, I totally believe that practically everything that you can imagine will happen in some place in the world at some point.
And at the same time, I'm thinking two things. One is that things are going to happen one way or the other, because no one is going to stop this process. I mean, AI is here the same as technology is here and the same as electricity is here. And not because people are afraid of electricity, it's going to stop being around. And I think that AI is pretty much the same. And on the same line, I feel that people have been scared of new things from the start of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as soon as we accept that things are going to develop whether we want it or not, we start finding the way in which to relate with these new technologies and these new tools and find the ways in which these are going to aid us. And we are going to need to change. I think that that's out of the question. If you want to do things the same way as you did just 10 years ago, you're at least going to lag behind, because it's not going to be an option. We're going to need to employ this sort of tool.
Totally agree. First, I very agree with you. And second, I keep thinking about this analogy that I always have in my mind when I think about AI, is that the cat that you have in your home or the dog that you have in your home, our level of intelligence compared to them is pretty much what I think at some point the AI in a very near future, I think, will have compared to us. That doesn't mean that we obliterated the animal kingdom. And also, I believe that cats and dogs, they have their own social life. They have their life with their own cats and dog friends. And some of them, I would say the smartest one, have learned how to use humans, how to interact with humans the best way to get what they want.
Mostly cats.
Exactly. So I think that it's going to be pretty much the same. I think that we will keep having a society, we will keep having the same desires and needs as we have as a human species. And some of us will interact tremendously with AI, maybe get a lot of advantage of it, come back to the human society and I think that there will be interaction between those two, and maybe, as some like Elon Musk or Ray Kurzweil say, we're gonna start to merge with the machines, and so there will be a spectrum of different interactions that we will have.
Yeah, I think that you're probably right. Going back into the application of AI tools, what do you think that are some challenges and limitations? Because we've been talking about all of the good things of AI. If it doesn't obliterate us, it's going to bring lots of good things. Okay, but what are the things that we have to take into account if we want to jump into this train? You can think of it from an individual standpoint or from an enterprise standpoint.
I have been using large language models already. Now I'm using them extensively. And I have noticed that it enhanced my work tremendously. It's not yet replacing my work. And I've been surprised I thought of a doomsday scenario where it's going to start to replace us. But in a way, it's very enhancing. I don't know what the future is going to be made of, but I think that the way to approach it is just embrace it as much as you can. Don't be afraid. Use it. I think it will bring tremendous efficiency, but we will still have new goals. Goals that we have not thought about. We'll still be busy. We'll still be busy in a very different paradigm, but we'll still have things to do. So I think just surf it like a wave, like if the wave is coming and if you don't move, you're going to get swallowed by the wave. And I think the best way is to just surf it the right way, see it coming and go with it.
Okay, so just don't resist it.
No, I don't think you should resist it. To give a small anecdote, personally, I'm a violinist. I was some years ago, I was playing the violin professionally, and that was when the iTunes and Apple and the iPod came out, and this whole revolution
in the 2000s.
In the 2000s, and I was like very passionate about music, and I went through that wall, that brick wall, and it taught me don't resist, adapt, go with the flow, and be flexible and go with what's going on. I think that's a universal law of the universe that's changing all the time.
And if you're because that's very clear if you're an individual. I mean, if in your life you should embrace it and you should use it as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you're some sort of organization? What are the things that could be challenges, the thing that could be difficult to resolve if you want to start implementing this organization-wide?
I think that if you want to implement AI in your organization, it's basically something that is unavoidable. If you don't do it, you're gonna basically end up, left out and beaten by the competition. I think there are two ways that you can embrace it. One is to keep thinking like the old paradigm, and you obviously gonna lay off people because AI associated with a human will be able to, as a team, to work as well as 10 or 100 humans.
Yeah, teams are going to be more efficient.
So you're still gonna have people working in companies, but much less, in my opinion. Or the second option would be to jump into the new paradigm, the new way of seeing things, and to upper your ambition. So as I said, I think that efficiency of AI will be able to solve problems that were unthinkable until now. And you can already see it with systems like AlphaFold, for example, from DeepMind, AlphaZero, and all those algorithms that have solved, for example, protein folding. I don't know if you heard about recently the age-long problem of protein folding was thought impossible to solve.
Can you explain what protein folding is?
Protein folding is basically out of your DNA produces proteins. These are large molecules that are used to build up all the biology around you. So your skin, for example, is made of keratin, which is a protein, a very long protein. There are hundreds of thousands of proteins, and they're all making who we are. And the way they fold, basically, I'm not going to get into the detail, but the way they, at the nanoscale, the way those proteins fold, it's extremely complex. There are more ways that they can fold than the number of atoms in the entire universe.
Okay.
So we thought that this was an impossible problem, and AI basically solved it. And not only solved it, but discovered much, much more protein possibilities. And so it has revolutionized the world of medicine. And so, for example, we could imagine using these new discoveries to build tremendous solutions in medicine. And I'm talking only about medicine, but my point is, it's up to us to imagine it and to fix ourselves new goals. And I think if companies start to fix themselves new goals, they might not necessarily need to fire people, but they might just upper their ambition and and bring more productivity.
Yeah, and what's probably going to need to happen is that people are going to need to be repurposed within the organization, because if you improve efficiency and you can have a higher output with less people, you're going to need people to do something different probably. At least they're going to be required to be able to interact with AI in order to...
Yeah. So even in my company right now, this is one of the big requirements when we hire. We absolutely want people that know how to use large language models, because we think that it gives us an advantage in the market. I personally believe that there is a lowering of the seniority level that is required in order to perform tasks now. And so where you used to need to hire a senior, today you can manage with an intermediate or a beginner that, along with the GPT or Claude, will be able to do basically more or less the same tasks.
What I'm thinking is that for some years now, in the last, let's say, decade or 15 years, when people discussed education, one of the things that was said often was that education was designed in order to form people to work in companies in a very traditional way. And society was and is now evolving in a direction in which needs people to be able to think originally and to be able to do very different things, which are probably not thought when they were educated. They were not planned. And this is exactly what you're presenting. People need to be able to do things they weren't prepared for.
Totally. And I think that there are a bunch of people out there that are undervalued by the market because, they don't enter into the conventional way of doing things. But these are the people that I think are the best, are going to be the best, that works the most in the company. And we are recruiting these kind of people because I call them the mavericks, because they are full of passion, they are motivated, and they don't necessarily know everything, but they are adaptable and they want to achieve. And they use now this new source of intelligence. It's like a free intelligence given by those large language models. And intelligence is not it's not in high demand. I mean, it's not a high requirement anymore. What really counts is the motivation, the grit, and the passion, and going to the action. I think this is going to be way more valued now in the market.
That's very interesting. That's a great reflection. Thank you very much for this time.
Thank you.